Orland Development has sued Bryson Contracting over problems with piping in a development which Bryson built for Orland. The piping was installed by a subcontractor, and Bryson intends to pursue the subcontractor to reimburse it for whatever it pays Orland. Council had negotiated a deal under which Bryson was to pay 80% of the cost of the pipe repairs. In return, Orland was to cooperate in litigation with the subcontractor. Orland's attorney agreed to write up the oral agreement. The attorneys now meet to review the final documents. Bryson's lawyer discovers that the documents state that his client will pay 90% rather than 80% of the repair cost.
You know, Bill, after our last meeting, the first thing I did was, of course, go to see Jerry Orland. You can probably imagine the first thing out of Jerry Orland's mouth. He said, why am I required to suffer a loss on this thing? Everybody else is going to get well on this deal.
I hope he didn't include my client.
Well, he did, because
oh, gosh.
He says, as you take a look at this situation, he says, I'm the one who has to pay attorney's fees. I'm the one who has to put up with unhappy tenants. And at the end of the day, this contractor who screwed this deal up is going to go to his subcontractor, and he's going to get completely well. So I've drafted up a settlement agreement here to cover the discussion that we had. But I had to work very hard to get my client to accept even a 10% discount on the loss that he's had to suffer on this. And I don't know whether I can hold on to that, but I'm going to do the best I can, because that's the best I could do. So I want you to take a look at it. I've worked very hard. I just want you to know that I've put this together in a way that gives your client what your client really needs out of this.
But not what you and I agreed upon.
It is the ability to go to his subcontractor with all the help that we can give your client to recover every dollar that your client has to pay in order to pay for the loss that he's caused.
This reminds me of that the rocket ship sitting down there at Cape Canaveral, where they're trying to have it blast off, and usually they say, Houston, we have a blast off. Here they would say, Houston, we have a problem.
Well,
let me just interrupt you, Jade, to ask a couple questions, because you're repeating yourself, and I've heard what you've said. We had a conversation where you and I thought, with authority, agreed on 80%. Right?
We had a conversation, Bill, in which I tried to be as level with you as I could about what my client's needs were. We had a discussion. I believe that I had full authority in what I was talking about at the time. I don't want to try to replay the past, because the past isn't going to get us anywhere. If we want to try to get to a deal, we're going to have to try to figure out how we get through this issue.
Jay, let me talk. Okay? Are you done? 2 seconds? Okay.
I'm through. Go right ahead.
You've acknowledged that you and I discussed 80%. It may not be important for going forward, as you say, for you to further acknowledge that it was implicit in what we said, I thought, that you had your client's authority. But let's just set that aside for the moment.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm going to report to my client, unless you tell me I'm just making this up, that you and I did discuss 80%, because clearly I talked to my client and I did get his authority to go to 80%, even though that is higher than he thinks he ought to be paying. It is not all entirely clear that we can get all of that back from a subcontractor, or any of that back from a subcontractor for that matter. And what I really need to know from you, you and I have dealt with each other before, and I know that clients can be difficult, and perhaps you thought you had authority, but I'm understanding you to say now you don't have authority to sit here and do the deal today at 80%. Is that right?
No, that's correct. I do not have that authority.
I would really like you to try to go get that authority, because I don't think it's going to be productive for me to have to go back to my client, because he has authorized the deal at 80%, and I got to tell you, he's going to go through the roof, because I think you know from our earlier conversation that he is most upset that your client didn't come to him at the beginning and let him try to fix it, because he could have fixed it for a far lower cost than your guy ended up paying.